All right, looks like we're good on those ends. All right. Welcome. Good evening. Well, actually it's either good evening or late night for you, depending on where you are in the world. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys are watching the live stream on either of David Tech's live YouTube channel or the Twitch channel, welcome as well. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everyone's doing well. And we're just going to be going over, a couple little updates. And pretty much from there, as things go along, you guys can feel free to ask me any questions you want. I'm going to do my best to keep my eye on chat in Discord as well as the chat going on in the stream. So, guys, please feel free to ask any questions in between. It could be ABC related, it could be trading related questions, and crypto. If you want me to look at something, please, you guys can go ahead and definitely ask me. So, from there, like I said, I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on everything. And if I miss anything, please either ask again or just give me a little bit. Hopefully, I don't. I'm going to do my best job to not miss any questions. So from there, let's go on to good old BTC. Now the question is of what BTC. Well, the question going on as of right now is, for me personally, is what's going to happen. We've been kind of sitting sideways in this range here for a good I would say almost about a month. We haven't really made it. BTC hasn't really made a major decision, but let's go up back to the more macro time frames, and I'll kind of show you guys, the usual routine, basically how I come up with the setups that I do, and basically just walk you guys through my thought process, and from there, hopefully, you get a better understanding of how ABCs work and how to just approach ABCs better in general. So from there, the first thing we're going to do is look at a larger time frame. To me, I want to see a good amount of price actions, and right now we're primarily focusing on the quote unquote bear market that we've been in for the last year. It's been almost a year since the last high. So from there, I want to look at the structure here and see if I can identify a good ABC, or at least a good set of ABCs, and maybe once we figure out the possible opportunities from there, we can go into a smaller time frame and focus on, or guys, when I say smaller time frame, I don't know if you guys can see me, but actually no, you can't see me on Discord, but air quotes for smaller time frame, because every time I say that, there's be a little bit of a little how would I say it, miscommunication, because most people are used to very, very smaller time frames. To me, smaller time frame is like a 30-minute to like an hour, 2 hour, and mostly focus on perspective. Time frame isn't really important. What's most important is for sure perspective. So from there, we're going to view this and we're going to look at it and see if we can identify a good set of ABCs. And in my opinion, I do see a very nice set of ABCs here. We have an A to a B to a C to create an A to a B to a C to create a B, and then an A to a B to a C to create. Sorry, I messed up. There's two options for what could be going on right now. The first option is this is an A to a B to a C to create a C, or this ABC that I just identified is actually just an A, and we're working on a B into a C. But until we get that lower low, past the low at what is that, 17,600, for me personally, I'm going to keep the idea that this is going to be more of a longer term bottom. So from there, if this is what we're working with, let's go on to a quote unquote smaller time frame and see if we can get a better perspective of what's going on with price action in this range. So from here, what I primarily look for is, the same thing as the larger time frames, can I see a much larger set of ABCs within each I guess portion of this larger trend here? To me, I see this as an A to a B to a C, and unfortunately this B wave was it was not the best forming one, but I'm going to count this as a B. Then we have an A to a B to a C here. So to me, this completes one larger trend. All right. And from there, we have this section of price action. And to me, this is a very nice A to a B to a C here. Now, as long as BTC remains above that 18,450, I'm going to be taking longs and remaining bullish. Now, obviously, this price level can break. As this consolidation is happening, it can either be showing signs of weakness or strength, depending on how this holds. I'm not too sure exactly how it's going to play out. But for me personally, as long as BTC is above 18,450, I think things are going to be looking pretty good. But until that level breaks and we fall through, I will definitely change my mind on that. If that is the direction we're going to go, and price is going to fall back below, the next level we have to keep an eye out on is, come on, is the lowest low, which I mentioned before, back in June, which is that 17,600 level. So from there, I'll go ahead and mark these levels out for you guys. These are pretty much the levels I'm looking to be long at, or going to be looking somewhat bullish, primarily since the 18,450 level has been broken and basically reclaimed. That's the if this and that statement of what I'm working with. As long as BTC is above this, I'm going to remain bullish. If that breaks, the next level I'm looking to be broken and tested and hopefully reclaimed is that 17,600 level. Now, obviously, BTC can just fall off a cliff and we can just keep going down a straight nosedive. Absolutely in the cards. I am well aware of that possibility. So I'm preparing myself just in case. But for me, in a longer term, I'm looking bullish, but just keep those levels in mind. If BTC can get back below and back above, something like this, get back above 17,600, definitely I'm going to be taking a long off of that level and going to be overall much more bullish, just because on a much larger structure, what we talked about before, back in the higher time frames, that's going to complete this much larger A to a B to a C. So just give me 1 second, folks. Okay. So from there, that's pretty much it. Let me just go over, well, at least for the longer term plan for BTC, let me go over a couple things I'm doing as well. So in case there is a larger downturn to the downside, I do have this set up here that I'm currently shorting off of. Now, that is just in case that price does continue lower. I'm not, 100% leaning this direction. For me personally, I like to see this level at least be broken, or from there, I'm at a good spot just in case price does decide to go down further. So it's more just a protection for myself, some sort of hedge position, and from there, I'm going to let these levels play out. And basically, from this point, especially the fact that we've been consolidating sideways for over a month now, if price is going to make a decision what it wants to do, I definitely think it's going to be very clear in the direction it wants to go. So I'm holding that level as well. I'm holding a long from here just to mark out the positions that I am in. And I'm going to let these two levels play out. The most important thing I learned over the last couple months or so is that for me, it's worth it more in the long run to take into consideration the much larger swings. And from there, I'm definitely going to be trying to hang on to these positions as long as I can. And for me, the much larger direction or the much larger moves in price is what's going to make me more profit in the long run. So that's what I'm prioritizing. I'm not worried about taking profit, regardless of what happens. I'm just going to let it play out. And from there, the market will definitely make up its mind. And for me, I get the benefit either way. So that's what I'm primarily looking at for BTC. Let's go over a couple other positions / coins that I'm in. Let's move on over to ETH. All right, so on ETH, I've talked about this, I believe, the last time I was here earlier in the week. If you look at the much larger time frames for Ethereum and look at the overall structure of what's going on, to me, there's a couple different possibilities as well. This pump here is a little bit more pronounced, so it's definitely gonna give me a little bit of a different directional bias, but it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not dead set on any direction that ETH can definitely go. Either or is possible, but based on what I see, I do see an A to a B to a C. Now, this can also turn into a situation to where we can get some sort of larger A. So this ABC can make up one A. We can also have a situation to where this can be much one larger ABC here. And that's going to make a larger B. And then, if things are going to get really bad over the longer course of time, or at least, another extension or another leg to this bear market, for me, I want to see an ABC form off of this B. And then from there, I can look for some sort of continuation to the downside. Now, when it comes to these larger setups, just keep things in mind is that sometimes when you get too zoomed out and too much of a macro or too big of a macro perspective, um, you just got to be careful because I can go to BTC right now. I'm just gonna use this as an example, and it's not gonna my keyboard's not gonna do it, is it? Oh, it's gonna do it. BTC USD. There you go. I need something a little more price action. So, for example, I could sit here on like a 2-day and say, "Oh, look, guys, this is one giant ABC," or even something like this to where this is one larger. Actually, no, I can go here and say this is one larger ABC within the C. I absolutely can, but to me, how I see things, this is going to give you a much larger skewed idea of what could happen, just because you can get a little bit more of a um, extended view of what's possible. Now, I'm not saying that this is the end of BTC and we're going to go back down to like, some ridiculous like $3,000. If that is the case, um, that would be absolutely insane. But to me, going too far in the larger time frames, as well as going um too small or too zoomed in on a time frame, is not going to do you any good. Just from my experience, there's a good middle ground for this. So for me, like I said, the middle ground of what I like to play is like that 1 hour to 2 hour, and kind of focusing on a medium time frame perspective and making my decisions and plays off of that. So let's just go back to ETH just to show you guys. So more likely than not, what this is probably going to end up being is some sort of, if this is going to be an ABC, I'm going to look for some sort of pullback at the very least, and then a continuation upward to where, this pullback might take a lot longer. And then from there, we can have a much larger move to the upside to become a much larger overall bull market. That's going to be a little bit more likely in my cards, or at least from what I see. If that isn't the case, um, let's see. I don't know what the hell I was doing. There you go. Going back to a more zoomed in time frame. Um, actually, yes, my apologies. Those are pretty much the options. I don't know why I confused myself there. Either, regardless of what I see, I think this is going to be one completed ABC. And really what's going on here in the more recent time frame is going to be the basically the determining factor of what happens next. So is this going to be a larger setup like this to where we just continue upwards from here, or are we going to find resistance at that most recent high? And from there, is the market going to at least pull back and reverse to where we get something like this? Maybe something like that. Just an idea to keep in mind. Definitely looks like if this is the scenario, this is going to be a lot longer, or this actual move is going to take a lot longer than most people think. But we'll have to just see how things go. Let's go over to a quote unquote smaller time frame, like I always say. From there, if this is going to be an A to a B to a C, primarily what I'm looking for. Did not mean to do that. Come on. is I can identify an A to a B to a C, A to a B to a C. All right. And as long as price is above at 1217. Now, the only reason why I say that is because we do have an ABC within the C. And to me, I like this sort of setup where you can find basically a nice set of ABCs within each wave. And to me, that's going to look a lot healthier and it's going to look more complete. So as long as ETH is above 1217, I'm definitely going to remain bullish. I'm currently long off of this level. I think my entry is at like 1219, 1220 around there. And the next stop I'm looking for is probably that 2029. Now, unless price action gives me something different to where, we could come up here easily and form some sort of longer, bigger ABC here, then from there I will consider shorting. But until that happens, I don't necessarily need to be looking out for that. My primary target for a hedge, at least like one of the first stops that I see major resistance is at that 2029. So I'll go ahead and mark that out for you guys. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have going on for ETH. I'll tell you guys one more thing as well. Let's see. To clear this up a little bit. All right, this ABC, if ETH can get above 1420, that's going to be a much more larger indicator that price is, increasing the upside in a healthy way. There's definitely going to be a little bit stronger of a move. If it can break that 1420, it's definitely going to confirm that for me. And from there, we'll just take it up to the next level, like I mentioned before. But until that happens, those are the levels I'm primarily looking at. I'll mark these out for you guys as well. Let's see, price ribbon or price label. Let's see. Tech Jungle. All right. I just noticed you asked a question here. Do you play Golden Pocket TP for ABC reversal? If so, if COVID dip is the low, then 11K ish is the Golden Pocket zone. So I don't necessarily. I mean, you could use fibs as like a ballpark area. Me personally, going forward, depending, what I usually would say is if you're going to use or look at much larger actual swings, then I would say focus. You could use fibs, for example. Like, let's go to ETH here. You could pull the fib from top to bottom. I know everyone's going to say you're doing it wrong, but the way I do it, I'm looking at like the 50% level. If you were to take a short off of, let's say, either playing the continuation of the B or up here somewhere, it'll be a decent. You can see prices respecting that 0.5 to 0.441 region. So you could use that as a ballpark, but me personally, I don't necessarily I won't take profit on a short just because a fib tells me to. I might take that more into consideration because it's on a much larger time frame and we're looking at a much larger swing. But most of the time, I just go off of what price action gives me. If price action gives me a setup to where it gives me a good reversal, or at least looks like it looks, how do I say this? If it looks, sorry, I meant to say the opposite. If the market looks strong and it gives me a continuation to one direction that I'm primarily looking at, to where it gives me another setup to re-enter, that's where I would personally be looking to take profit and also as well re-entering the position. For example, if this is going to be an A to a B to a C, if this leg up here, has a very strong move to the upside, and let's say we just blow right through it, if we form some sort of ABC here, I will definitely go ahead and re-enter long off of this setup. I would take profit on this trade and re-enter here. This to give me another if this and that statement. That's primarily what I'm looking for. I'm looking for points of invalidation. So I don't primarily look at fibs for actual taking profit, but I will keep those levels in mind and I'll keep those levels in consideration while I'm looking at larger swings or larger moves. So Um, and that's on logarithmic. ETH would be 600. Um, yeah, it's possible, Tech Jungle, but like I said before, primarily, um, I kind of just use those as like a guide. I don't necessarily look at golden pocket zones or certain levels like golden ratios, golden pockets, just because for me, even though price may test those levels, I personally want to make the most out of my trades. And I think using fibs on a much larger scale like that and trying to aim for those really low numbers, I don't think is necessarily the best thing to do. I think it's good to take it structure by structure. And if we do go down there, perfect. But the market's going to tell you that we're gonna, form a much larger setup to give you momentum to continue down to those numbers. Let's see. I think current economic conditions merit those lows. Um, Absolutely. Um, I think we could definitely go down there. I just don't think we're gonna fall off a cliff. I personally think price is going to definitely take its time, and you also got to consider this as well. Is in order for price to move down there, we people need to sell. People with money need to sell. People with large holdings need to sell, and they're not going to sell down here. They're going to be selling up in higher regions, up here, up here. So going back to what I said before is if you can get a nice continuation setup off of this ABC here, this much larger one, to me, whales need. Well, I guess I don't really like saying whales because I personally don't think whales are as common as you guys might think. I don't think they're in collective groups trying to play this out and plan this out with each other. Um, it's just like everyday folks like me and you. They're basically everyone's playing with fighting against each other. It's kind of the same situation. But from what I've seen, big money likes to sell into certain levels and sell into buying opportunities. So when most people are viewing this as a potential breakout to where we're breaking out of resistance, people are going to buy into that pump. While people are buying, people with big money are definitely going to be selling a lot more into that pump. And that from there is going to kind of trigger a snowball effect to where for example, we'll come down here, we'll come up here, let's say it fails. People are excited buying this breakout. Whales are selling. Eventually, it's going to trigger basically a downside move. From there, people are going to end up getting stopped out, liquidated, to where people might have to buy back into their positions. And then from there, it's going to be more selling. And that in itself could definitely trigger a much larger move to the downside to where, we can possibly go down to those 10, 12, 10 to 12K region. I'm just not dead set on it yet. I could be 100% wrong, and I'll be willing to fall on that sword if that is the case. But for me personally, I don't necessarily think we're going to go straight down right there because it just doesn't make sense. I don't see money being sold or a lot of Bitcoin being sold in this region. Price has to come up, definitely at a higher price point, get people to buy, get people excited, and that's where prices can definitely call for much larger reversal. Very similar to what happened over here on BTC. Basically, we got a break of this high. People got excited. I'm sure people were taking breakout trades and buying into this. Eventually, people started selling. The market fought to make a decision, came down lower, and eventually it caused a much larger snowball effect to where we got just very aggressive. We got a very aggressive downtrend, and eventually, same thing, pull back. People getting excited, sell into that again. So that's what I think personally. If prices are going to get that low, this is the way it's going to happen. I could be dead wrong though. That's just me personally of what I think and what I see. And also using the logic of um how can the most money be transferred? How can the most people be screwed? That's how I view things. And for me personally, this is definitely going to get more people excited, and it's definitely going to cause a much larger reversal in the down market in the bear market. Sorry, let's see a reversal. I meant to say continuation. Sorry. So, yeah, no problem. Thank you so much, Tech Jungle, for asking that. But yeah, I definitely think economic conditions are doing so hot. But I think if it does gotta go there down in those levels, it has to find a better way to do, not better way, but basically a more maniacal way of doing it. Something that's going to hurt, something that's going to get people excited and let people down. So that's probably the best way I like to view that potential larger down move. So let's see. I forgot where I was. Let me just double check. Guys, I'm also keeping an eye out in Discord on the chat as well. So please, or if you guys are here in the room, you guys want to speak up, ask me a question, or I'll keep an eye out on the thread here. So please ask anything you might have, any questions you might have. But we're going to continue on from there. ETH, pretty much, like I said, those levels are here. I'm currently not short on ETH as well. I'm not shorting ETH. So I'm just waiting on the sideline and mostly going to see what happens. Hopefully, I just want a decision to be made at this point. I don't care if it's up or down. I just want a major decision to be made. All right. So let's talk about. Oh, I did not see XRP. This is new news to me. Oh, shoot. I didn't miss that long. All right. We're going to do something we're going to do something live here. So you do have the potential of this ABC in play to form a much larger structure here. All right. It looks kind of sloppy, but until that low of this level is broken, the possibility of this reversing higher is definitely there. So what do you want to do? In this case, since we're kind of late, I would go ahead and say set a limit order for 43.89. The reason why I would consider taking a position on this is because you do have a completed setup here, and it doesn't necessarily have to break this low. Ultimately, I want to see this low be broken and reclaimed at 41.70. You can tell we got not a full retest, but we got definitely a test of that low, and we got a solid bounce. Doesn't mean it has to go down there. So for me personally, I'm gonna do this right now. You guys don't have to do this. This is just something that I'm doing. I'm gonna be setting a very small position and see if I can catch this. Where's my phone? Because I don't have. There it is. Just hang with me tight. Hang tight. Hang with me for a second here. Hang out for a moment while I get this set up. Like I said, you guys can do this. You don't have to, but this is an example of how I do things in real time. Go ahead. What was that, Vlad? Yeah. One day, Vlad. One day. All right, so I'm gonna set a limit. I wonder if no, I feel like if I turn on the VPN, it might mess with the stream. So I'm not. Unfortunately, I can't show you guys on the computer. Um, basically, I'm gonna set a limit order. The price is gonna be at 43.90, and then basically my risk is going to be like maybe a quarter of what I usually risk. So if I usually risk $10, I'm going to risk like 250, $3, just to give you an idea of what I'm working with. Just because this is a much smaller setup for me, I personally don't like to risk too much on smaller setups. To me, this is considered like a small cap coin or an altcoin, even though XRP has been around the block for a while. To me, these volatile moves make it a little bit more unsustainable, which it's a good thing for trading leverage if you're on the right side of things. But me personally, I like a little bit more consistency. And to me, it's hard to get consistency with these kind of coins. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that out. 43.90. I set my stop. All right. So I am in a trade from here. Well, I'm not in a trade. I'm waiting to get in. So if we get come back down here, I will get entered using a 1%. And then ultimately on this move, I'm going to be looking for at least a test higher, if not, or a test of that high, if not higher. I think it's the first time I actually set something up on the stream here. Hopefully, we'll get filled. I'll let you guys know because I got my phone on me. I will get a notification when I got filled in. I will not get a set an alarm because you guys are going to be like deaf by the time that goes off. By the time it stops going off, sorry. So let's just talk about XRP well since we're here. I'm also currently short off of. Let me go ahead and mark the correct colors here. I'm short off of these levels. Oh, sorry, not these levels. The 5104, I'm currently short. Ultimately, I'm looking for a higher high past 5594 to take another short there. So as of right now, this is the current short I'm holding. I'll go ahead and actually I'll just mark the price label as what I'm in right now. I'm potentially looking in to get there at 43.89, just in case this is a larger reversal. Ultimately, I want that 41.74 level to be broken though. But what I will do is I will set an alert here. Hopefully it doesn't go off. I basically set an alert at that low just to let me know that, hey, price is definitely going to cross over at some point. So I'm going to send an alert. Just keep an eye out on that and we'll go from there. Let's see. I don't believe I've had somebody ask me about Cardano earlier. Me personally for Cardano, I'm not looking to get in until this major high is basically reclaimed. I have a conditional here. This is basically going to be more of a swing position for me. I don't necessarily I'm not going to be focusing on compounding this trade. I might just get in and let it ride. I'll have to see what happens unless I get a nice, clear, concise ABC on a much larger time frame. Then I might consider re-entering. But you do have this availability here at about 34.87 based off of this ABC. Now, I know this is a little tough here, but to me, this is a much clearer breaking trend. And this is an A to a B to a C. So you're playing into this structure, but we're primarily focusing on this smaller one here. Now, I know as well as, we're still heavily below the major macro low. So for me, it's like I said as well, I'm going to be, if I do take this, which, I don't know if I'm going to personally, but if you guys are going to take this position, go ahead and set a conditional and just set your risk appropriately. Don't go too heavy just because, things could definitely turn to the downside, but don't be afraid to take that trade. Just use the appropriate risk. And for me, appropriate risk could be like a quarter of what you would usually risk, or a quarter of a percent, or 0.5%, depending on if you don't have anything else open. All right. So those are primary levels for Cardano. I don't have anything else. The major ABC is off of this one here. Oh, I messed up. All right. That's your much larger, more ideal structure that you want to be playing into. I currently I have a buy position on a spot, not I have a major spot buy. Marked down as here, so I do have a conditional set on my spot account. Something I'm going to be holding for a much longer term, just in case this is a much larger bull market coming. Regardless of what happens down here, I'm mostly focused on this level up here. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what else I have positions open on. So I am in XRP, ETH. Oh, let's go over Litecoin. So I talked about Litecoin in the past. In case you guys haven't seen this setup, primarily on a much larger time frame. I think this is going to be, or I think this is a much larger, more macro A to a B to a C. All right. Could we come down and break that low at $39, $40? Absolutely. But until that happens, I have to take this into consideration. Now, if this is the low, what does this area of price action look like? To me, this is a nice, clear A to a B to a C. All right. With an ABC within a C. You know what? I drew this backwards. I meant to say was this was an ABC to an A, ABC to a B, and into a C. I personally like this setup a little bit better. How it's strong like this. So from there, as long as you're below 65.76, I definitely would go ahead and take shorts and remain short from there. Unfortunately, I am not shorting this, so I am not in that trade. But I am taking a chance off of this structure here. We have an A to a B to a C. From there, I do have that 49.70 as a major pivot. So if LTC can remain above 49.70, that's definitely going to be a little bit more bullish for me. I'm currently long off of this setup here, and I'm looking to hold it. Hopefully, we get upside. Like I said, it doesn't have to happen. There's no short setup for me to take besides that larger one at 65.86. But unfortunately, like I said, I did not take that. So until that happens, those are the levels to keep an eye out on. I would definitely remain bullish as long as you're up there, as long as you're above 49.70. I'm looking for a much larger continuation in the trend, something like this. We talked about A, B, C to an A, and we have A, B, C to a B, and then we're gonna have some sort of A, B, C to the upside, depending on what happens. If we get the break of that high, I'm definitely going to be uh, taking a head short against the long, just in case that this is a much larger reversal structure and we could absolutely continue lower. Um, but I have to keep that in mind. I can't actually bank on that idea yet. It's just something to consider if price does go to the upside. What is the how is a much larger structure going to form? And for me, that is definitely what it looks like, and that's what I would like to see for a much larger reversal in the market. But until that happens, um, I pretty much have to remain long, or I'm going to keep that long open regardless of what happens up here. So, all right, that is for I think that's everything that I wanted to cover for at least for crypto. Let me just double check. Yeah, that's everything. So if you guys have any questions, let me just take a look and make sure I'm not behind. Okay, it looks like I'm all caught up on chat and everything. If you guys have any questions, I'm doing my best to keep my eyes on chat on both ends on the live stream as well as the Discord. So please, guys, ask me any questions, and if not, I'll go ahead and move on to um we're looking at more some traditional pairs. No, I pretty much don't use any. I mean, I've used EMAs in the past, but I've never really used them. I've seen situations to where price has definitely tested EMAs, but for me, I like using price as more solid invalidation statements. The problem is it's like it goes back to and I this is how I kind of view indicators as a whole. I don't hate them. I just not a big fan of the reasoning why people use them. If that makes sense. If you're using them to um if you're trying to get an advantage on the market and beat the market by looking at these indicators, the problem is one, everyone and their mother's using the same thing. Unless you can find a way to put your own little twist on EMA, something that that most people aren't going to use, that's probably you probably have a better chance of doing being more successful with those. But my thing is, if you're trying to get an edge on the market by using those, the problem is everyone else is using them, which in turn means people with big money are using them as well. So if I was in that situation where I was a whale or I was a bigger player, I would definitely take those indicators and try to take advantage of everyone else and basically try to into play against everyone else who's using the looking at the exact same thing. And so for me, I think that if you're going off of try to beat the market, that's not going to you're going to have a bad time. But I think if you're using indicators to try to um use them as, let's say, areas of confluence or trying to back up a main idea that you have. For example, like let's say I know it's not oh shit. Let's see. I know it's not EMAs, but let's say for example, like let's use RSI for example. I don't necessarily use RSI, but for example, you I talked about this sometimes is that you can use oh, it's not gonna work for me, is it? You can use RSI. Let me just oh, that was not what I wanted. Get rid of some of this other. If you're using, let's say, traditional RSI, this is cluttered. This is a lot of to me, this is what how is this going to help you? But if you take something and you put your own little twist to it, for me, I change the inputs around to see if I can find something that fits better. And to me, unfortunately, this example is not the best example, but you're looking for divergences. You can use divergences as a way to basically give you some sort of invalidation statement. You do have a divergence here. Unfortunately, you did not get that higher high, so you didn't have a proper ABC. There's no divergence here. This is an example. Like if you didn't take this if you're using divergence as a uh, level of confluence or a measure of confluence, unfortunately, you wouldn't have taken this trade because there's no divergence here. I think of another example. So you wouldn't have taken it off that one, but you probably would have taken it off of you would have taken it off of this high. You have a divergence here, all right? And so instead of taking um this ABC down here, you would have taken it at this level, which you know what, to be fair, I would definitely take that into consideration. So not when you use indicators sometimes as layers of confluence or trying to give you basically um a trigger. If you're using, I'm trying to think of how to explain this. If you're using indicators as like a secondary input or secondary source of validation, unfortunately, sometimes the indicator won't give you those, and sometimes you might miss out on trades because of that. So that was basically a long story, a long answer. Hopefully that answers your questions, Vlad. That's just me personally, though. I don't personally go against anyone who does use them. It matters. It depends on why you're using them. That's the most important question to me is comes down to why. So, let's see. Oh, here, Dave Cubs asks, quick look at Soul. Absolutely. Soul. All right, so Soul has a very nice setup here. There's a couple of things to keep an eye out on though. With Soul, almost the same thing as everything else, but this has a much larger chance of putting in an ABC like this on a much more macro scale. So if it Soul breaks down past its low at 25.75 and it, reclaims and maintains above it, definitely go ahead and take a long off of that level of invalidation. Oh god, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to change that to green. It doesn't necessarily have to get down there, though. The reason why I say that is because the other alternative is, let's say that's not the case, and let's say that this low here was the bottom of the C. Now you have an A to a B to a C here, A to a B to a C here, and then now you have definitely a possibility of continuation upwards, just like it's very similar to BTC and ETH. So from there, as long as price can get back above. Now, let me just highlight this within this B wave, right? You do have a very nice A to a B to a C. And as you can see, I have an alert set on that major A. To me, this is a much larger structure, and this is what I'm willing to play. You do have an availability of a smaller ABC, but for me, even if I go to like a 2 hour, if you take this, this setup and then compare it to, let's say this setup. Actually, I want to delete that entirely. And then compare it to something like this. The first setup I mentioned has a much larger structure to it, and definitely it holds more validity to me. So if Sol can get back above, now I'm personally taking this. I'm going to set a conditional. If it can get back above 29.97, I would go ahead and take a long off of that. If that doesn't happen, if that isn't the case, definitely look for that 25.75 to be tested. It's pretty much the levels. These are the only two levels that matter to me. And at some point, you are going to get a major decision and a major play off of one of these levels. So we'll kind of have to see what happens. You do have the availability of something like this happening to where you have an A to a B to a C. We see we get one more low. And then from there, you have, you can play to the C wave. And then we dive into the situation to where we're just playing very small structures. So to me, without getting too zoomed in and too focused in on the lower time frames, if you want to, I say maybe take a very small position on that 27.59. But me personally, if I was going to do this, I would wait for that 29.99 or $30 level to be reclaimed. So, Dave, I hope that answers. I hope that helps. Of course. And let me just double check StreamYard's chat. Let's see. All right, live stream chat. I'm all caught up on. Guys, thank you so much for asking questions. I really appreciate it. Let's move on to traditional markets. Now, this is another reason why I'm currently a little bit more bullish on markets in general. Traditional markets, I know as much as people say there's inverse correlation, to me personally, I think there's more of a correlation than people think. I'm not saying that it's 100% correlated, but I think if traditional markets are going to do well, crypto's going to do well. So for me, off of the S&P, you have this blue ABC, which is a much larger macro structure. As long as the S&P can remain above 362.41, definitely for me that looks very good. That looks very bullish. And if that is the case, I'm looking for this level up here, like 420, somewhere in this box region to be tested. You could definitely have something like this as well, to where you form another ABC. And then from there, you can kind of connect this. And then, the next step, if that level doesn't hold, or, we break down from here, definitely going to be a continuation in the downside. This goes along with the idea what I talked about for BTC, to where we get more of a retesting upside market. And then from there, we can get into a situation to where, bigger money sells into the break of the new high, and then we can get a much larger decision from there. I kind of have to see how things play out. So for me personally, let's see. Go back to Discord. Okay, cool. For me personally, I honestly think this looks good. We'll have to see what happens if this level continues to be respected, or if it does break down lower. We do have this pocket of support around here based off previous price action. But me personally, if that doesn't hold, we're looking like doom. This is like doomsday. So we'll have to see. That's why I personally don't think that price is going to be too eager to really continue that much lower. That's just me though. All right, let's go on to same thing with pretty much everything across the board. Dow Jones, a blue ABC here. Um, as long as the Dow Jones remains above 29,650, definitely go ahead and be a little bit more bullish on that. DXY. So DXY is there's basically a couple of different ideas I have for the DXY. Primarily on a much more macro time frame. I need the DXY to get back below 103.85 for me to be extremely bullish on assets. That's definitely going to show signs of weakness of the dollar. And from there, I can definitely be a little bit more confident when I say, hey, we might be in for a bigger bull market. I don't know. But for me, that's definitely a big, strong sign for me to look for. If I go down to a little bit of a smaller time frame, I'm going like let's see, 3 hours. Good. I'm looking at something like this as like an ending structure. A to a B to a C. The problem with the DXY is that it's so choppy that I really don't see a very clear structure. I'm going to go based off of, let's say this is an A to a B to a C. Now, there's a couple of different ways this can play out. The B can come down here. We can continue higher, break that high. And if, price can show weakness from there, I'll be a little bit more bearish. But the B wave can also get extended out to here based off of this ABC, A to a B to a C. All right, that can also happen. So if we do come down a little bit further, definitely look for the DXY to break 110. Oh, come on. Yeah. Let's see. To break below 110 and reclaim it. If that is the case. All right. If that is the case, definitely look for a continuation to like the 115 level. And then from there, that looks like a much larger potential reversal, playing into the possibility of continuing past 103. But that's just me. That's just one of the. That's just another way you can get there. It's still the same result, but it's just a different way you can get there. Another possibility as well is you do have something like this, where we come up here and not break this high, and it's pretty much the same result where you have something like this. All right, so I'm still looking for that B. This is going to be A to a B to a C. I don't want to sit here and draw too many ABCs because I don't want to confuse you guys, but something like that could definitely play out. Still, and pretty much same result. The other possibility for the DXY is it could easily come down here and just fail. It doesn't necessarily have to hold that structure. It could easily just come down here and just just continue downwards like that. But these are just levels to keep in mind. All right. Let's see. Let's move on to. I have to sneeze. Hold on. I'm going to mute the mic for a second. All right. False alarm. Didn't have to sneeze. Oh, jeez, that was bad. All right. Sorry about that, folks. I'm still like coming over like a little cold, so I'm still recovering. Okay, so I realized I did those backwards. Looking like Christmas lights out here. Wait a minute. Oh my god. I need to go to bed soon. No, I'm kidding. I am absolutely discombobulated right now. That sneeze really messed me up. Or that fake sneeze. This is what it should look like. So keep an eye out for a break below and a reclaim above 110. Depending if that happens or not. If that doesn't happen, look for a break and a reclaim of 115. From there, you can get a better, clearer decision of what possibly could happen. Let's see. ES, same thing, 3640. US 100, it's kind of still dancing in that region. I needed to get back above 1159. Tesla's actually in a decent spot. Let's talk about Tesla quick. So, I definitely think this is a decent level to buy at. Remember, guys, it's not financial advice. Just because you do have a much larger A to a B to a C here. If it can remain above 207.20, 206.50 around there, I definitely will consider buying some Tesla. And from there, I'm pretty much the next level I would look for a retest for. It's up here somewhere. If not, an ultimate break of the high, form a much larger bullish structure. Or sorry, bear structure. Something like, I don't want to go all the way back, but something like this. So until that happens, those are levels to keep an eye out for Tesla. Let's look at gold. See, gold, pretty much same thing. Ideally, I would like to see that 1677 level get reclaimed for me to be a little bit more bullish on gold. I would say more of just a retest. I know if I go to like a weekly, there's a mother of all ABCs here. So just keep this in mind. The possibility of this coming down here being basically having this be the bottom of the B and up here definitely is absolutely a possibility. So if that is the case, look for a break of that high, and this would be a much larger ABC within the C. So I would be a little bit more confident trying to be a little bit more short on gold if that is the case. But we'll have to see how this plays out. Doesn't necessarily have to, because as long as we're back below that 1935, the availability of gold coming down further, the chances are a lot higher, in my opinion. But we'll have to see, because I know since this is a much larger time frame, and basically there's a lot of time between the A and the C, to me, it's going to be not as exact. It's going to be more of a region to be tested. All right. Silver, same thing. Trying to get, wow, geez, I have to keep zooming out, do I? All right. So for silver, ultimately, I know there's like I said, very similar to gold. There's a mother. This is even bigger, much bigger ABC. Long as silver is below 48.18, I definitely would be a little bit more cautious, just because that is a much larger ABC for actually just one of the largest ABCs I've seen without anything in between. So just keep that in mind. The next availability for the next setup is a 6 hour. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, that's why I didn't zoom out far enough. The next availability for probably the next decent setup I'd be looking for is you have this A. Oh, sorry, wrong low. This A to a B to a C. You have an ABC within here. You have an A to a B to a C within the A. You also have an A to a B to a C within the B, and then ultimately what you're looking for. It doesn't really matter if that's the case. You want this level to be broken and reclaimed. If that can happen, it's gonna be a little bit more bullish for silver. We'll have to see what happens from there. You also have the availability, like I talked about this before, of this being some sort of A to a B to a C, where we get one more high before we continue lower. or we can just go straight up. It really depends on how it wants to play out, but those are the available options for silver at the moment. I think that's it. Does anybody else have any questions for me? Ugh, that means I did a good job. Hopefully, I tried my best, Vlad. I and I this sucked. Is like I know I talk about here. I come on here try to give you guys as good information as possible. I want to give good examples, but when like stuff like this is happening where literally nothing's going on, definitely isn't the best. So hopefully things pick up soon. Yep. Hopefully it will. Maybe we can get on XRP. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we've been going for a good amount of time. Um, I'll have to see because I don't have a day off. Maybe I'll try to get up in early in the morning and I'll do like a really early stream. We'll see what happens. What's next? Yeah. I'll figure something out. I'll definitely let you know, Vlad. Thank you guys so much. All right, bye everyone. All right, folks. I don't know if I'm sorry. Basically, Vlad was giving an ending message. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know there's a couple of you watching here. I will try to be on here next week for the European session, hopefully. But I do have some stuff planned towards the end of the week. I'm going to try my best, though. If not, I'll definitely see you guys on next Thursday. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Have a good night.